Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be taking a look at Blade, and more specifically Blade in 6.3 and 6.4, because I think the most common criticism Blade has is the fact that he's great for everything up until including Act 5, but Act 6 he drops off significantly. And partially it's true, but partially I'm starting to think more and more it is because people are just kind of either a bit lazy to actually try and figure out the uses for Blade, or just too carried away in using the new and shiny champions. And therefore, for today's video, outside of this very first fight, which is very kind of vanilla cookie cutter, no special notes Vulture from 6.4 or 6.3, we're going to be taking a look at fights that you wouldn't typically think to use Blade or think that Blade can do. And my goal is going to be to showcase how resilient and how adaptive this character is. And it is true that he may not be the kind of like ultimate option for majority of the counters and anymore in Act 6, but he definitely has his uses, and it's quite often limited to actually realizing the correct playstyle in correct conditions. For instance, when we see Tenacity node, we kind of automatically normally typically would assume that Blade is not going to be overly great for it, because he heavily relies on being able to land those debuffs. And obviously when you're facing off against Juggernaut, let's say, who goes unstoppable, makes these fights extremely tricky. Well, that is not a fight that kind of like screams Blade, but fact of the matter is that Blade can do that fight. He can do that fight relatively well, and on top of it all, he has that extremely comfortable healing, and he pretty much finishes all of the fights, even in like 6.3 and 6.4, at like 70%. And if you do happen to make mistakes, which is fair enough, it happens, there's always that option of recovering either by end of the fight or in the next fight, and that is super convenient. Even here we can see that, for instance, just by activating Danger Sense, we are reducing the amount that Tenacity triggers. And with that, we are getting in solid amount of damage, solid amount of level 2s. Sometime, like at beginning of the fight, we could see that Unstoppable didn't trigger, for instance. And all of those things kind of like come together to make the fight significantly easier. One of the best things obviously Blade has is his power gain, and even under these conditions against Tenacity, we can see that he is getting significantly more power than Juggernaut is, for instance. And he's getting, in fact, so much power that he has enough to heal himself up and inflict plenty of damage and plenty of special attacks. Here we're going to go for another level 2. Obviously, these are not necessarily the shortest, quickest, or easiest fights or ways how to deal with these champions, but it's to make a point that Blade can still do it. Now, I did make a mistake there. I ate a level 1. I forgot that it is unblockable. That is totally on me. But it, again, further will come to showcase the fact that Blade can just simply heal up all of those hits extremely easily and very quickly. And for plenty of fights also in today's video, we're going to be using a no synergies, or basically we're going in fights where no Danger Sense is active, to also showcase kind of like the difference in between the fights and what Blade can and cannot do. For instance, we're going to be taking Blade against Taunts with Danger Sense and without Danger Sense active. But all that being said, we can see that this Juggernaut's kind of like closing in on the end. I wanted to make a point to heal back up to 70%, which is the maximum limit for Blade, and then we're going to finish it out. And the next we're going to move on, and the next two fights are going to be sped up twice the original speed, just because they are quite lengthy. But these fights are in 6.4, I believe in 6.42 on Footloose node, and they also have increased power gain when they evade or auto block, and something else I forgot. But point being is, you typically wouldn't really think of using Blade for Footloose, for instance, especially when you're up against magic, because you still need to contend with that auto block. You still need to deal with the Footloose node itself. But Blade can do these fights, and a large reason for why he's suitable for these fights is because his extremely potent power gain whilst opponents bleeding, and ability to bleed opponents with his parry. Therefore, he can speed up and slow down the fight as you see fit. Obviously, you can just spam heavy attacks in order to avoid auto blocks, and all in all, you have pretty much no real trouble kind of like dealing with that Medusa at all. What whatsoever, even under these conditions. And this fight, in my opinion, kind of like extremely well just showcases how versatile is Blade, because at no point in the fight I'm ever in danger of getting cornered. No point in the fight I'm ever feeling uncomfortable. Yes, this is not the quickest or kind of like most straightforward way how to deal with these fights, but if you are clearing Act 6 and your roster might not be wide enough to always have the perfect counter, then it's quite frequently worth re-examining champions that you do have available to you, trying to find out kind of like maybe some suitable ways how to use them. And in Blade's case, he quite frequently fits the bill as like a B or C option for a fight that's always kind of like good to have in many different conditions. So for instance, yeah, here we went up against Medusa on Footloose and what else not, and she was absolutely stacked, but we finished the fight on 70%, which is kind of like the vast majority of the health that you're going to be finishing on. And yeah, it wasn't even like that hard, it wasn't that tricky. Obviously, you do need to realize what you're doing, you need to understand full abilities Blade has. For most part, here we can see that even again dealing with Stark enhanced Spider-Man, we can outplay that Evade, outplay that Unstoppable, and we can manage the fight on our terms, whether it is by pushing to level 3s, whether it's by parries and level 1s and level 2s, whichever way you see fit. The fact that you can always top up your health, you can always inflict some damage via your parries, and you can always gain more power during the fight without actually landing hits on opponent. All three of those are kind of like extremely valuable abilities not many champions in this game has. Parts of Blade's playstyle kind of remind me of Hyperion, where if you choose to, for instance, slow play, you can only throw special attacks in the fight. And that is also something that's extremely significant. You can adapt your game plan to the restrictions of the nodes and still deal significant amount of damage by alternating the way you actually utilize Blade. And therefore, I do think that obviously there are well-examined reasons why Blade is not nearly as popular as he used to be at some point, but he definitely does not deserve to be kind of like taken out of the picture entirely. And this is another beautiful example of why I think Blade is still a fantastic champion. Now we have Elektra on that shock node. Basically, we're going to be getting a ton of shock debuffs on us. We have Do Not Go Gentle that we need to play around with, and obviously Elektra's damage itself. And we can see that on paper, this is not even a matchup that many champions would take comfortably, because all of these are very tricky things that you need to be able to answer. But Blade's doing it, and Blade's doing it quite well. He doesn't struggle with it. He's always able to heal. If he has high amounts of power, all of those shock debuffs expire quicker, so you can choose how you're going to deal with all of that. You can always spam your heavy attacks to get rid of those Do Not Go Gentle nodes, at the same time still having like control of power bar, control of healing, and always topping up your health. And yeah, so Electron, Do Not Go Gentle, that inflicts extra amount of shock on you and all that other stuff. And Blade is still doing absolutely fantastic job here. And we are closing in. I'm going to make a mistake towards the finish. I finished the fight with level 2, and that we can see that cost me a lot of health in this fight. But at the same point, it's going to give me a good chance to demonstrate how easy it is to heal up, even if you start at a ridiculously small amount of health. So in this case, I'm starting the fight at 13% health, and my goal is to kind of like heal up to a relatively comfortable level and then carry on the fight. And we can see that within a couple of parries, within a couple of like witty dodges, I guess, running out of the way, we are already back at 46% without much happening in the fight, without throwing a hit on opponent, just by landing a couple of parries. And at some point here, I'm just gonna figure like to go for it and actually start fighting. 61%, 67, 68%. So yeah, we're basically up to as high as we can be, more or less, in this fight, and we can start dealing damage to this hood. And it's so easy, so simple, and not too much to worry about. Obviously, the fact that we can spam these level 1s, inflict these long bleeds, and long term increase our power gain overall. and supplement all of these attacks with heavy attacks to get rid of those do not go gentle charges. It's just a very versatile champion that I personally feel that I might have put him on a shelf a bit too far. I think that he did deserve a bit more attention that I have given him recently, and as I was playing about with Blade today, trying to find these fights, trying to find more interesting clips to show to you guys, I actually kind of regained some of the lost joy that I had using Blade, watching that power bar go up immediately quickly, watching that health bar get topped off or completely free. And yeah, it was definitely enjoyable, and I kind of had forgotten it even to a degree, but I was super happy that I was able to find all sorts of interesting, different, difficult matchups for Blade that, yeah, people arguably wouldn't think of using him, but he's still proving himself as capable option. It's like he's not the best option. There are obviously champions who are better suited for a lot of these fights, but he's still capable. Like here is a perfect example. We have Void on Torns on increased armor node, and Torns in 6.3, I believe, is a very, very serious thing. We can see that we're immediately taking a lot of damage when Torns is working. Obviously, Danger Sense is preventing the damage back significant amount of time, additionally to the fact that I have a good chance of Void not activating his Fear of the Void debuffs or Intimidating Presence debuffs. Additionally, I can top up my health and have increased power gain. Additionally, Blade's level 2 has 9 hits on his combo, so I can always kind of like purify those Intimidating Presence debuffs extremely quickly. Now, I did make a mistake there. I did shoot my level 2 in the block, but still had the away charges, and Void chose not to punish it. At the same time, the fight is well in the control. I'm just dropping my level 2 here. And yeah, we can see that the Void is melting away. I'm managing to maintain my health, topping it up as and when needed. Now we're going to see that here is a debuff that procs. I drop a level 2, immediately purified, no problem at all whatsoever. Still have solid amount of health. Could be doing a bit better, I guess, but not too scared at all. At this point, again, I'm on 45%, and the debuff procs, unfortunately, so I have thrown my level 2, but obviously throwing level 2 inflicts significant amount of damage to the Void as well. And here we're going to try and top up my health a bit. As I do that, I also clear the 70 hit mark to purify that Intimidating Presence debuff. And one of the cheesiest things that I still like about Blade is even if you parry projectiles, you somehow inflict bleed on opponent, and it makes no sense, but it's so funny. So when Void throws his energy ball attack or something, you can just parry it, and somehow Void starts bleeding, which is always fun. Which is, yeah, makes no sense, but it's still fun. And to showcase that it's not just the danger sense that you're really looking for, we're going to be going up against Human Torch and Taunts. Right, so it's Human Torch, so here is no danger sense. So every single hit that I land on Human Torch will deal damage back to me. And I'm starting the fight with relatively low health, so I still have the task of actually healing up and then kind of like going on a mission to damage that Human Torch. Here we can see that I'm already back up at 65%, basically 68%. Unfortunately, I do make a mistake, get caught by that heavy attack. But hey, what you can do, mistakes happen, right? This isn't a showcase of perfect gameplay by no means. Otherwise, I would have spent a bit more time kind of like trying to have these perfect, beautiful fights. But this is a showcase of how versatile Blade is and how forgiving he is for your mistakes as well, because you can always top your health up when something goes wrong, unless you're KO'd, obviously, but that's an entire different conversation. And yeah, here you can see that we are dealing with taunts extremely well, even though there's no danger sense active, even though we do not have any ability accuracy reduction or any other abilities that would directly help us not to take damage from taunts. Just literally the sheer combination of versatility of your ability to do damage with your parries, of that beautiful power gain mechanic, spamming these long level 1 bleeds, and all of that comes together for you to simply fight through taunts. Again, obviously he's not the best option here. Obviously, you are probably going to be better off bringing in Namor or Quake, but he is an option. And for people who are struggling to find the right options, or maybe are not comfortable to learn how to play Quake perfectly and do not have the 206 tones for that Namor, he is fantastic here, without a doubt. He's an alternative option. It's going to be harder, it's going to be trickier, but just the simple fact that he's versatile enough to kind of cover such a wide array of matches and nodes still has to be respected. Definitely deserves a respect, in my opinion. But this is the last fight of this video, so do let me know if you want me to check out Blade in some more different paths in Act 6 or any other content in particular you have in mind. We can see that we're still kind of like trying to finish it off here against that Human Torch. I do make a mistake and I slip up and I eat all the damage, but despite all that, I'm just going to drop my level 2 in the fight. It's going to be very close to the finish. Also note that Human Torch only threw like 2 special attacks in this fight, I think, or maybe 3. So just this alternate playstyle, preventing opponent from gaining lots of power, it's just additional perk to all of the other utilities. But yeah, anyways, that is it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the good buttons. Let me know what you think about Blade in 2020. Do you still like him? Do you still use him? Where do you use him? And whether you would like to see some more footage with him. But all that being said, I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya.